this Dodger team has not finished making moves. It's been a crazy offseason, and now the Dodgers are forced to get rid of some of their players. We get into all that in this edition of Dodgers Digest. Hey, this is Mike Nelson. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. I want to thank the 28% of the ones who are watching these videos who've already hit the sub button, but 71% of you have not subscribed yet. You know, myself, Brad J, we're bringing you everyday Dodger content. You're not going to find content like this anywhere else. We're the best Dodger channel out there, so make sure to hit the subscribe button. Let's get right into it. Of course, the Dodgers, this was earlier today, Bob Nightingale made a bombshell report with basically making a mention of a Dodger player that's currently on the roster, Ryan Braier. The Dodgers are currently shopping players in their roster to other teams to make room for new additions, and Ryan Braier is one of those players that is being shopped around by the Dodgers. They now have a surplus, of course, when it comes to pitchers, you know, with their signings of Kirby Yates and, you know, of course, Tanner Scott. So this is obviously big news, right? Because the Dodgers, you know, can't have everybody on this roster. They can't. They just can't. They're going to have to make some decisions in the next few days to clear those spots, right? As this article here from Dodgers Nation talks about, the Dodgers, another potential player the Dodgers could trade is, you know, Michael Grove and Chris Taylor, because, you know, that's another couple players they could potentially trade. You know, with the Sasaki signing now official, the Dodgers have a full 40-man roster. To add Scott and Yates, they're going to have to clear 2 spots. The Scott deal is basically done. Yates is going to have to pass his physical. Sources believe he will pass that. So what do you guys think? Who is on the way out for the Dodgers? Well, I think Ryan Braier is basically out, right? I think Ryan Braier will be traded very soon. Maybe we'll get traded later today. We'll be making another video on that. But I think Ryan Braier is gone. I think, you know, picking up Tanner Scott and, you know, Kirby Yates, there's basically no need for Ryan Braier, who was not bad for the Dodgers. He was pretty solid, right? But I just think there's no need for it. And why are we picking on Ryan Braier? Well, because he's owed $4.5 million, right? So the Dodgers want to try to clear some of that, space, some of that money that they're going to have to use for Tanner Scott and Kirby Yates. So, well, not a lot for Kirby Yates, but, you know, Tanner Scott's definitely getting a lot of money. So that's why I think Ryan Braier is on the way out. I think it's almost certain. I think Ryan Braier is a relief pitcher that a lot of teams would still be interested in. It's not like a player that's over the hill, or, you know, a player that I think teams would be more than willing to take him on. Because he still has a lot to give. I think in Major League Baseball. So I think he's going to get traded, and the Dodgers we'll be getting, probably some draft picks back, or some minor league talent back. They can't get a player and insert him in the major leagues because they're trying to clear roster space, right? So that is definitely going to happen. Now, the other 2 players that are mentioned here on this report, you know, with Michael Grove and Chris Taylor. Michael Grove is a young pitcher, right? We got a chance to see him pitch with the Dodgers last year, getting called up. But you know, I think his upside is still yet to be known, so I think some teams would be willing to take him on. But I think the Dodgers at this point are not that interested in trading him away, and they're more interested in trading the other guy that's mentioned, right? Chris Taylor. Chris Taylor is a player the Dodgers have been trying to get rid of probably since the end of the 2023 season. I believe they were. There was reports, obviously, after the end of the 23 season, the Dodgers are trying to trade him away. And those reports kind of kept going on until Taylor got injured, right? Taylor got hurt at the beginning of the 24 season, around there. And, as we know, was not really 100%, for last year. And it was almost impossible to trade him at the trade deadline, right? I think the Dodgers would have liked to. They would have liked to have traded him to try to get Tanner Scott, right? Remember, Tanner Scott was a name the Dodgers were heavily interested in at the trade deadline. When he, of course, went to San Diego, the Dodgers at the end didn't really need him, right? They won the World Series without him, but now they got him. So it's definitely funny how that worked out. But Chris Taylor is a player the Dodgers are trying to get rid of. His production is not there. He's getting paid a lot of money. But the issue is the contract, right? Are teams willing to take on the money that Chris Taylor is owed, right? I think that's the main issue, right? As it says here, it's unlikely the Dodgers to find a landing spot for Taylor unless they pay down some of his salary while also attaching a prospect. So you're going to have to give a lot to get rid of him. And that's something the Dodgers are going to have to, with this acquisitions that are not yet official, Scott and Yates, these two acquisitions, they're going to have to clear some space. And I don't think they want to release Chris Taylor, right? Designate him for assignment and all that money. I just don't think they're going to do that, right? So I think they're going to want to trade him, right? I think that's what they're trying to do. And I think Taylor, another name that is not in the article, but I think could potentially be traded is James Outman, right? James Outman, one of the baseball's best rookies in the 2023 season, had a pretty dismal sophomore season in 24. He really struggled, right? Hit under 200. Was not the same batter that the Dodgers had in 23. He was not consistent, as we know. And I think that he's a potential candidate for the Dodgers to trade away and to, clear that space, right? But James Outman is a risk, right? Because James Outman is a very young player, and you don't want to trade him to a contender or a team that could potentially, make him a star, right? And then have to play him, later down the line in the playoffs, right? Because that's what you would end up doing if you trade away, James Outman, and he ends up turning out to be a lot better than he is, right? So that's a big risk. But Chris Taylor, I don't know what you guys think, but I think the Dodgers really, comment below your thoughts. That's always, we always want to get those thoughts from you Dodger fans. I really think, Chris Taylor is just not a player the Dodgers can rely on anymore, right? I think the Dodgers have a more than enough players now. Tommy Edman is locked up. Now you have Kim. They just got a lot of other guys. And, Kike Hernandez, not forget about him. They could still sign him. So, I would try to, clear those three spots, right? And get Yates, get Scott, and get Kike Hernandez. Why not? Get these three guys on the team and call it a day for the offseason, right? I think those are the last three big acquisitions that the Dodgers should be making. They're, are reportedly thinking of making. The Kike Hernandez, as we've talked about here on the channel, is another player the Dodgers are still reportedly interested in. There's mutual interest, but they gotta make space for him, right? There's just no space. The Dodgers have they're up against the numbers here, right, with 40-man roster, so they have to clear some space for him. And having trading away James Outman, I think is not I think it's a good idea, right? I think trading Chris Taylor as well, and then of course Ryan Braier, who's already talked about, he's definitely gone. I think he's gonna get traded very soon, probably this week. As always, make sure to subscribe, and let's go Dodgers! Woo!